Welcome, everyone. It's good to see everyone today. And Chet, we're going to do a few things with you here a little bit later. I also, before I get started with the sermon today, I want to just acknowledge what's going on in our world today, this week, and it's really pretty scary. Before I came in here, I just read that that Vladimir Putin has instructed his defense secretary or minister of defense, whatever he's called, to gear up nuclear weapons. I think it's been out of control in a big hurry, and it's very sad for the people who live there, but it's dangerous for the whole world. And so, what I'd ask we do right now is just bow our heads for a minute and in silent prayer, and also ask for wisdom and guidance, especially for the leaders of the world. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, I'm finally back. It's been a week and a half since I've actually been preaching here. A week ago this last Wednesday, I found out last minute that that my grandkids were having their first communion down in Fort Dodge. And so Shelley said, well, just go ahead and I'll take care of the service, and she did. And then took a few days vacation with two of my kids and their men, Cal and Kiri. Cal wasn't here last week either. He was with me, and Kari and her fiance Daniel. And we went to a place where we could do a little scuba diving. Imagine that with me, huh? And it was a lot of fun. We had some good time. But there was one day that I want to tell you about that was just so interesting. Most of the dives were great, but this was not going to be one of them. We got down there, and there was no getting underneath the murkiness of the water. You know, sometimes when the water temperature changes a little bit, it gets a little colder. It gets clearer underneath that. We couldn't find the clear water, and I mean, it was incredibly murky. So much so that you couldn't see but 4 or 5 feet ahead of you. Would you put this slide up? You can get an idea of what I'm talking about here. Yuck. That's a good way to put that. That's my daughter on the right, and she's clowning around with her buoyancy, and I don't know who those two people are, but they're supposedly in my group, and you just couldn't see a darn thing, you know. So after a while, and in fact, we got split up at one point. So there were 3 of us kind of at the end, and we saw this sea star, and we stopped for just a minute to look at it, and we got done. We turned around to continue with the group, and the group was gone. We had no idea where they were. And as it turned out, they didn't have any idea where we were either. So the 3 of us decided we're going to go up and see what's going on. And we pop up, and they're just a few yards away, and they've popped up as well because they've lost us. And we just decided to call the dive. So we get in the boat. We're all a little disappointed. And as we're taking off our gear, the captain of the boat says, "Take a look over there." And he sees some splashing in the water. And it looks like a pod of dolphins. And so he motors on over. And I will tell you, it was not a pod of dolphins. I'm not kidding about this. It was literally thousands of dolphins. Okay? So I want to show you this. And as you watch it towards the end, you can't see it very well because it's a wide angle lens, but off in the distance, you'll see 2 dolphins jumping out of the water. I mean, like 10, 15 feet out of the water. So let's show this here. it looks like SeaWorld, right? Except this was out in the open ocean. And they were putting on quite a show for us. I mean, it was so much fun. And they, of course, when the boat came through, they kind of gathered around the boat, as you could see. They were literally that close, as close as they looked. And it was a wide angle lens. So much fun to see. And by the way, I cut this down to 2 minutes. This was like a 30-minute deal. I just kept going all over the place. It was so much fun. But you know, the thing about this is had we just decided to stick with our plan and go back down and do another dive down in that murky water, we'd have missed all of that wonderful stuff. So I want you to hold on to that thought as I digress on something else. A while back, one of my Florida cousins sent me an article that he had read because he knows I'm a preacher and he knows I like these sorts of things. It's a couple of fun facts which I know are true because he got them off the internet. All right, and so I'm going to share them with you. And if you've heard this before, I apologize. I never know where I tell my stories, but so the first one is this. It's about a vulture. So there's a certain kind of vulture that if you put that vulture in a fenced-in area that's about 6 feet by about 8 feet, and it's open on the top, the vulture can't fly. Perfectly capable of getting out and flying. Perfectly capable, but out of habit, and only out of habit, when this type of vulture starts out on the ground, it needs about 12 to 15 feet of running space just to take off. Now, it doesn't really need that. It only thinks it needs that. It can just take off and fly. And so what happens, in effect, is you have this vulture with blue sky all above him and freedom all around him, and he is penned up and a prisoner in this little small space. Fun fact number 2, bumblebee. And once again, I know these are true because we found them on the internet. Bumblebee. If you drop a bumblebee in a jar, any of you ever heard this stuff before? Drop a bumblebee in a jar, the bumblebee will never be able to get out. Leave the jar open, and it'll never be able to get out because the bumblebee is looking for a way out at or near the bottom of the jar. And it will continue to do that. All it has to do is fly up to get out, but it'll never think to do that. And it will stay there until it dies. It will literally look and look and look for a way out in a place where there is no way out until it destroys itself. Okay, with those 2 fun facts, I think I'd like to sing.
I see you. You understand? I know it is not easy to be at home when your husband is out doing all of this, even when you are excited about it and proud of him. So, I wouldn't ask you to do this without taking care of a few things.
You mean?
Plus, normal Simon is difficult enough. You think I want to travel with a worried Simon?
No.
No, I do not.
The fever spiked. Her forehead burns my hand to the touch.
We should get a doctor. There is no need.
Who are you?
This is Jesus of Nazareth.
You've never met him before.
Welcome to my son-in-law's home.
Thank you.
What am I doing lying here?
You had a terrible fever.
And all of you staring down.
Dasha, don't.
No one move. I'll be right back with some drinks.
Andy, be a dear and come stop this fire.
Coming.
Let's see. Ryan butter for Simon, pomegranate arrows. Goat cheese.
Thank you.
Does your friend like goat cheese?
Yes, I love goat cheese. I should, see about the goat cheese.
That's obviously from The Chosen. That was from season 1. And I think season 3 is going to get started this spring. So I'm very excited about that. I want you to hold on to this. This is the lesson that, Kay, did you read it this morning? That Kay read. Thank you very much. And by the way, thanks, Julie. It's good to have this great music in all different forms. Where was I there? Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was from season 1. And this is the story that Kay just read. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on this a little later in the sermon. But for right now, what happens is after she gets up to serve them, then people evidently in the community, in the village, hear what has happened, and they start coming to Jesus, and they're bringing people who are in need. And they're bringing sick people, and Jesus heals them, and they're bringing people who are possessed with demons and unclean spirits, and Jesus releases them from the unclean spirits and their possession. And I have to say that when it comes to sickness, we understand that one, right? We know what that's all about because we've been there ourselves. We know what it's like to be sick and the way sickness debilitates us so that we can barely even get out of bed sometimes. You've heard it said that, I'm just not myself today. And that's what happens with sickness. It takes us off of our game. It takes us away from the things that we're really meant to do and the person that we know we are. Right? Demon possession is another matter, right? I mean, that one sounds a little scarier because I think when most of us hear that word, we hear demons, we hear unclean spirits, we hear possession, and we tend to go to Hollywood for our images there. And so when we hear those things, we're thinking, heads that turn in 360-degree fashion. We're thinking the face turns green, the voice gets really scary, start throwing up stuff, and they have these powers that no one else has. And it's kind of frightening, but it's also, frankly, kind of cartoonish. Right? And I have a different understanding of demons and demon possession than that. Because it's a real thing. It is a real thing. What happens with possession is quite simply this. That which is a demon in your life is trying to take you off of your game, to take you away from who or what you are meant to be, and to send you into murky depths. We live in a world of freedom, but it wants you to go down there. It wants you it wants to drop you in the bottom of the glass and watch as you try to find a way out, even though it's right up there, easy to get. Try to find a way out in a place where there's no escape, and you keep doing this until you destroy yourself. That's what demonic possession is all about. And I know we don't call it demonic possession anymore. We have other more clinical names, but it is demonic, and it is possession. There is addiction. There is abuse. There is this desire to have something that you don't have, and you obsess on it. There's fear. There's anxiety. There's worry. There are things that you want to be, but you're not. I just saw a meme on Facebook from one of our members, and it was talking about body type for women. And how this person who wrote the meme has been since the 90s when she was in high school, has never been the right shape. And it has defined her life. It's a kind of possession, isn't it? And I can go on and on and on forever. You see where I'm going with this, right? And it is real possession, and it really does hold you in its grip. And it does so in ways that keeps you at the bottom of the jar. And it all sounds pretty reasonable, what the demons have to say to you. So anger, resentment, hurt, those kinds of things, those are demon possessions. And it will say, forgive someone who's hurt me? I don't think so. Let that person off scot-free just so they can do it again to me or someone else. That's not going to happen. Sounds reasonable, right? Worry, anxiety. Let go of that when I know this is out there. What am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? Where am I going to go? And that sounds reasonable. Why would I just let that go? Goes on from there, right? Anger, resentment. Let go of that? I don't think so, God. I don't think so. I mean, I have a right to be angry with what has happened. And I have a right to be resentful. And I'm not going to let that go. That's just not fair. And that's the way demons work. They speak to you. And they keep you going to the bottom of the jar. And they have you looking for answers down there for freedom, for a way out, in a place where there is no way out. And it keeps you down there till you destroy yourself. I know I deal once in a while with people who deal with addiction, alcohol addiction. They say, why should I feel this pain when with a few drinks I can just make it go away? And they stay down there, and they stay down there, and they stay down there, and their pain continues, and they drink more, and they drink more, and pretty soon it leads to self-destruction, right? That's what demons do. That's how they function. Very, very different than the cartoons we get at Hollywood, isn't it? But very real. And so if we were to look at the lesson, and I apologize, I don't have it up for you this morning. If we were to look at the lesson, what we find is this. When all these people come to Jesus, after Jesus has healed the mother-in-law, he heals the sick, and he releases those who are possessed. Now it has a different meaning, doesn't it? And how does he do it? He keeps them from speaking. He silences them. He silences the voices of worldly reasonableness for something else. Voices that would have you say, it's only fair, it's only right, how can I give up a hurt or an injury? Why would I forgive? Rather than the voice of freedom that says, forgive and let it go. Or why a voice that says to you, I just want the pain to go away. And instead, there's a way of freedom. But the freedom is not to novocate the pain. The freedom is to be released from the thing that's holding you in its grip. And on it goes. And that's what Jesus does. He silences the demons so that you'll look up, so that you'll see that the path that you're on is a path of self-destruction. And you'll see that there's a world of freedom waiting for you there. The murky waters that you've lived in and the corrosiveness that occurs as you listen to those voices are replaced with the healing balm of the one who has come to save you. Let's stop there. So there's another lesson that I think I preached on the last time I preached here, a couple weeks ago, and it's another story about demon possession. And at that point, the demons speak to Jesus, and they say, "What have you to do with us, Jesus? Have you come to destroy us?" And Jesus basically says, "Yeah, that's what I've come for." So he silences that demon as well, and it comes out of the person. That's just what happens when Jesus is in charge. When he silences the voices of reasonableness and replaces those voices with the freedom of his love. And so, what's the third act in the play then? What happens when you're released? Now we're going to go back to Simon's mother-in-law. So, and by the way, sickness and demon possession, basically the same thing. It takes you off your game. You're not yourself, right? You're not who you were meant to be. And we see that with her. She has been sick in bed. What am I doing here? She doesn't even know that she's had this fever that's about to kill her. And she says, "Who are you?" And then she realizes that this is her house, and she has some important jobs to do. So she gets up, in spite of their objections, and she says, "I've got to get him something to drink." And then she calls Andrew. "You come and help me, Andrew." And then she hollers in, "Do you think your friend likes goat cheese?" And by the way, don't you love The Chosen? It just makes Jesus so human. And, "Oh yes, I love goat cheese." And then he heads out to help her too. But you see, the third act is this: once you're free, once you see the world as it is, you look around to help others, to love others, to care for others. So let me ask you this. What's the demons in your life? What are the things that have these voices in your head that sound so reasonable, but every time you follow them, you end up at the bottom of that jar looking for a way out, and slowly it's corroding your soul and destroying you? What are those things? Jesus is here to silence those voices. He silences them with self-giving love. And then he says, the way out is up there. And once you are free, there's a whole bunch of people who are just like you who need to find a way out too. Love them as I loved you. Care for them as I cared for you. Do unto others as I have done for you. It's a beautiful message of life and hope. And for that we give God thanks and praise. Amen.